Welcome back to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today, we step back to March 15th, 1617, when Scotland's own King James VI, who had also been ruling England as James I since 1603, returned to his homeland for the first time in 14 years. This royal visit was more than just a homecoming, it was a calculated move to reinforce his authority and, most controversially, to push his vision of religious unity between Scotland and England. But as with many of James's plans, the Scots were not so easily persuaded. And if you're curious about other fascinating events that happened on this day in history, be sure to check out my blog at https://bagtownclans.com/thisday. The link will be in the description. When James VI left Scotland in 1603 to claim the English throne following the death of Queen Elizabeth I, he promised his Scottish subjects he would return often. Yet for 14 long years, Scotland saw little of their king. Now ruling from London, James was preoccupied with governing a much larger and wealthier kingdom, but he never lost his deep-seated belief in the divine right of kings. He saw himself as anointed by God to rule over a unified Britain, both politically and spiritually. This belief fueled his ambition to bring the Scottish Kirk in line with the English Church. James's return to Scotland in 1617 was supposed to be a grand affair. He arrived with an impressive entourage, eager to remind the Scots that he was still their sovereign. But there was more at play than mere royal pageantry. James had an agenda. He sought to introduce religious reforms that would make the Scottish Kirk more like the Anglican Church of England. This was deeply unpopular among the staunchly Presbyterian Scots, who cherished their religious independence and saw any interference as a direct threat to their faith. James's vision was encapsulated in the so-called Five Articles of Perth, a set of reforms he would push the following year in 1618. These articles included kneeling during communion, observing holy days, private baptism, private communion for the sick, and confirmation by bishops. To James, these were harmless gestures meant to instill order and reverence in worship, but to the Scottish clergy and many common folk, they were dangerous steps toward Catholic-style rituals and an erosion of their hard-won religious freedoms. During his visit, James attended numerous state ceremonies and church services, often using these occasions to lecture the Scots on the virtues of religious conformity. He hoped to win them over through persuasion, but resistance was strong. The Scottish Kirk was fiercely independent, having fought hard to free itself from royal and papal influence during the Reformation. Ministers and elders were deeply suspicious of any attempt to impose English-style governance on their church. Though James did manage to enforce the Five Articles of Perth in 1621, they were widely ignored and deeply resented. The seeds of conflict had been sown. His son, Charles I, would inherit these tensions and push even harder for religious conformity. This heavy-handed approach would ultimately lead to the bishops' wars of the 1630s and contribute to the wider wars of the Three Kingdoms, which engulfed Scotland, England, and Ireland in bloody conflict. James VI's 1617 visit to Scotland was meant to reaffirm his rule, but instead it highlighted the growing divide between the king and his northern subjects. While he may have hoped to unite his two kingdoms under one faith, his efforts only strengthened Scottish resistance to outside control. The struggle between royal authority and Presbyterian independence would continue for generations, shaping Scotland's future in profound ways. Thank you for joining me today on This Day in Scottish History. I hope you've enjoyed this look into the political and religious struggles of early 17th century Scotland. Don't forget to check out my blog for more historical events at https://bagtownclans.com/thisday. Tune in tomorrow for another journey through Scotland's remarkable past. I'm Colin MacDonald. Haste you back.